Hello everybody, welcome to more political chatter. This 2024 election prediction will be between Joe Biden as the incumbent president in 2024 running for re-election against Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is he has Democrats on his show. Well, anyway, he's a podcaster, right? He has a podcast. He brings Republicans and Democrats alike to talk about stuff. He is conservative. He is a Republican. Definitely conservative. So let's see how this matches up. Joe Rogan is actually pretty popular in the United States. He's despised by a few people, but overall, people seem to really like him. I mean, Democratic candidates went on his podcast during the 2020 Democratic primary, right? So he's very famous, one of the leading podcasters. And let's see how he will do against President Biden running for re-election. So Joe Rogan would win safe Republican states like Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large. Nebraska's first and Nebraska's third. Kansas, Oklahoma. And I will point out that I'm not on... Well, never mind. I will do margins. I'll do likely and stuff like that. But these would all be solid form. Oops, not Georgia. Sorry. Anyway, I would see, states like West Virginia, they're going to go to Joe Rogan very, very easily. Not so much South Carolina. We will get to South Carolina later on. But safe states for Biden would be, states like California, Oregon, Washington, states that will not change. D.C., Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire, New York, Illinois, and Hawaii. I don't see these states changing at all, along with Maine's first and Maine at large. So I do think these would be the safe states for each candidate. Now, going on to likely states. Well, let's see. Starting off for Biden, state like Virginia, even though they have a Republican governor, well, he will be in 2022. I see Biden carrying Virginia by a likely margin. That says Rogan. Sorry. Anyway. I really don't see the state changing. Because Joe Rogan is going to be such on the conservative right, that, some votes will be turned away. I mean, there's a yard sign, a pretty popular yard sign that was printed for Youngkin's campaign. It said, "We are Democrats, not socialists, Youngkin for governor." So it was really wanting Democrats on their side, right? Well, Rogan, he's going to be very right-wing, too right-wing for the Democratic Party. Now, I could see it, Biden just winning this over 5%. But we do need to remember this. Biden is extremely unpopular. Right? So, really, I do think some Democrats will stay home. I'll change Virginia to a lean margin. Biden is just so unpopular right now, that really will make a difference. Joe Rogan, I do think, would carry South Carolina by a likely margin. Trump won it by 10%. He's not going to increase by 5%. I think South Carolina would stay in that likely column. Moving on to Alaska, another state that went to Trump by about 10 points in 2020. Another state that will not flip. It will stay in the Joe Rogan column. And in Texas, I see Texas as a state where Rogan, he's going to do better than the Republicans did in 2020 and the 2018 midterms, right? I don't see Biden really increasing his support in the state of Texas. I really don't, because this is an area, this kind of southern Midwest region. This is the area where Biden is not doing well. His approval ratings are down in this area. So Texas, I think, would go to Joe Rogan by a likely margin. New Mexico and Colorado, these aren't ready to flip. I think in the near future they might be. But Rogan would do pretty well in this area. I really do think so. I think Rogan would do very well in this region over here. New Mexico and Colorado, I do think Rogan would win enough support to make Colorado and New Mexico a lean margin for Biden. Not tilt, but lean. Then in Arizona, I see this as a Rogan state. I really do. This is an area where he's doing well. It's because of this. His conservative values, his right-wing values, they're not going to hurt him as much, they're not going to hurt him in Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, and Colorado as much as they would in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, the South, right? It's as simple as that. It's not going to hurt him as much as conservative values. So Arizona, I think, would go to Joe Rogan by a lean margin. And I think Nevada would go to Joe Rogan by a lean margin also, for those same reasons. But we do also have to remember Biden's unpopularity. That's going to be a major part in this election. Biden, as of right now, is unpopular, and this is the 2024 election as of right now, with Joe Rogan as the nominee. So, I do think Rogan would win the state of Nevada by a lean margin. Moving on to Nebraska second. Nebraska second, I think, would go to Joe Rogan by a lean margin. Just because of the president's unpopularity in this region, in the Midwest, he's doing awful here. He's not approved of here. Joe Rogan, if Trump could pull it off in 2016, I think Rogan could, when the Democratic president is even more unpopular than Obama in 2016, right? Iowa, Ohio are going to go to Joe Rogan by a likely margin, just saying how little they shifted to the left in the 2020 election. I think, these were strong Trump territories, and they will be for Joe Rogan as well. Indiana, I think, would be safe for Joe Rogan for these same reasons. Trump won it by a safe margin in 2020. Sorry, I forgot to characterize it there. Maine second, I see Joe Rogan winning it, saying that Trump did in 2016 and 2020 by a likely margin. This will not change. Minnesota. Minnesota is very tough. But really, I think, parents kind of dominate in Minnesota with suburban areas, right? I really do think so. This is an area where Joe Rogan, how he spoke out against the vaccine and how right-wing he is. This is a state where that will hurt him. I think by a lean margin, Joe Biden will carry the state of Minnesota. Now, moving on to Wisconsin, this is an area where, this is a more conservative area than the liberal Minnesota, So really, Rogan's right-wing values won't hurt him as much in the state of Wisconsin. And plus, sorry about that. Anyway, Biden is extremely unpopular in this area, in the blue wall, in the area that carried him to victory in the 2020 election. So, Wisconsin, I think, would go to Rogan by a lean margin. Of course, I think it would be more than 1%, but not as much as 5%. And then moving on to Michigan, this is the same deal, the same deal. Joe Biden's unpopularity is going to hurt him so badly, and that includes the state of Michigan. I think Michigan would go to Joe Rogan, but just because there's that solid Democratic African-American population, I do think it would be a tilt margin. I think Joe Rogan would carry the state of Michigan by a tilt margin. And then Pennsylvania. This is a state with many parents that where Joe Rogan's comments about the vaccine might hurt him, but really with the president's unpopularity, that will not flip the state. Pennsylvania will go to the Republicans as of right now. With Joe Rogan as the nominee, Pennsylvania will go to him by a lean margin because he is a likable guy. People really like this guy. And then in the South, Florida would go to Joe Rogan by a likely margin, more than 5%. This is just such Trump territory, and it's becoming more Republican. Ever since 2008, the Republicans have been gaining, and the Democrats have been shrinking. Pennsylvania, I think, would go to Joe Rogan. This is not a state where his right-wing ideals will hurt him. And the vaccine rate in this state is extremely low. Trust me, my sister goes to college there. She knows. She gives me the facts. And not a lot of people have been vaccinated in the state of Florida. And a lot of people don't believe in the vaccine in the state of Florida. So, Florida, I do think, would go to Joe Rogan because his ideals won't hurt him about just right-wing extremism and the vaccine. Georgia, I think, would flip to the Republican side. Just African Americans will stay home, right, for Joe Biden. It's as simple as that. They will stay home because they kind of carried him to the presidency in 2020 by winning him the nomination and the general election, right? But many feel that he has not served them back. He has not done much for the African American population. Same goes for North Carolina. I think North Carolina would go to Joe Rogan by a lean margin. So Joe Rogan, wins with 313 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 225. If you like this video, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you all for the next video. Bye.